I've been a practicing artist for the past 20 years. I've been making my living off of found objects. And I have taught on and off here at Northern Michigan University since graduating in 1993. And I had to give that up. The last few times that I was teaching, it actually cost me money. So, being that I live down on the Lake Michigan shoreline, there was a long commute, and so several years ago I just decided to, give it my all and concentrate on my work. Well, I collect tires and car hoods. And I see value in stuff. I have a hard time passing things up. All kinds of material. I collect metal, wood, rubber, plastic. And whenever I get a phone call, I usually go and collect everything that's there. I have a hard time passing it up because in that collection of stuff, there might be something that is key to a sculpture or even key to my future at some point. So I categorize and accumulate and try to find places to store it. And this is behind my garage at home. Actually, this shot is from several years ago. This was yesterday, I took this one. But in order to be a found object artist, you have to surround yourself with found objects. And the more found objects you have, the more you have to choose from. Several years ago, I collected all of the tin cans from the Rapid River School Hot Lunch program. I would get like 3 or 4 large like Santa sacks every week. And my children and I would cut the ends off, and we would snip them down the sides and stockpile them. Put them into hoops like this. Each one has like 40 or 50 cans. And I did not know what I was going to do with them at the time. And basically, it's a good source of material. And everywhere, just about every school, every pizza shop, so many places create all kinds of cans. I also like beer cans, and I collect beer cans, and I really like the old ones. And being in the upper peninsula of Michigan here, that's a natural resource. So I try to use that to the best of my ability. And I've been collecting cans now for a number of years, and actually for about the past 10 years, a good portion of my income has come from making canned fish, beer canned fish. I think that beer and fishing kind of go hand in hand, and I've been capitalizing on that for a while, and it's been providing income for me. Beer cans have all kinds of uses. This is the rock band ZZ Top, if you didn't know that. And this piece actually started with the 2 pieces of wood that comprise the guitars. I saw that, and it kind of looked like a flying V guitar, and I couldn't deny it. Most of the time, I create animals in my environment. I utilize the local resources. I pick up whatever I find, alongside the road, on the beach, in the woods. And quite often I interpret my surroundings. Most of this work is fabricated with small screws and rivets. I have a friend who is a shoemaker, and he provides me with all kinds of leather scrap and waste product from creating shoes. This duck here is primarily created out of can lids. The beak is a piece of leather from an old wore-out glove, and a couple of measuring cups comprise the head, but mostly it's cans. Sometimes I create larger work that is primarily welded. This buck is in Ludington Park in Escanaba, and I won a competition and created this utilizing about 50 objects from our area, relating to the area. Whoops, there is no separation for me between work and life. This here is my son's rocking horse from when he was a small boy. And sometimes I make a lot of dogs, and usually I start with a head. And in this case, it's just a regular tin can and an electrical outlet plug that creates the nose. And very whimsical, utilizing tree limbs for legs. Several years ago, I was given this object, and I believe it is a tailpipe from a Corvette. And to me, it looks like a set of nostrils. So for quite a while, I've been wanting to create a large dog, utilizing this as the starting point. So last year, there's a show called Art Prize down in Grand Rapids. It was in the third year. And I've been a participant in that every year so far, and I proposed a piece similar to this to the Public Museum for this year's competition, and they rejected it. So I ended up sending another proposal to make a large dog, because I had that snout that I wanted to use. And since being a young boy, we used to travel. I grew up down near Detroit. And I used to travel up here with my family, and I would always bug my parents to stop in Grayling to see this as a child, because it was just awesome. It was 30 feet tall, and I realized that it was made out of car hoods at a young age, and I never looked at car hoods the same. I grew up in Taylor till I was the age of 9. And this is in Allen Park. It's the Uniroyal Tire, and it's 80 feet tall. And just the sheer size of it was always an inspiration to me. So 2 years ago for the Art Prize competition, I created a large blue heron. And this was in response to the Gulf oil spill. And also at the same time, the Kalamazoo oil spill was happening down in Lower Michigan. So after seeing all of the images of the oil-drenched birds and wildlife being affected by the oil spill, I wanted to create this bird utilizing primarily petroleum-related objects, lots of gas tanks and oil drums and things related to the automotive industry. And this was 20 feet tall. So unfortunately, with this, I used up most of my large material on hand. I try not to buy anything. I try to collect from the environment. So when I went about making a dog this year, I really had a limited source of large material to start with. So I thought it'd be very fitting to utilize trees for legs for this dog, because trees are abundant material here in the UP. And these crooked ones like this are quite often referred to as dog legs by woodsmen. So I brought this one home, and it had the uncanny appearance of toes on the bottom. And I could not deny that. I tried to, though. I really wanted to use it inverted, flipped up, use the larger part for the thigh, because thighs are larger on top. So for about a week, I tried to start on this dog structure, and it just was not happening for me. I was trying to force it, and finally I accepted the material for its potential, and then things really started coming together. And once I had that structure in place, I figured if I could make the head, make the nose to the tail, I could fill in everything in between. So I went looking through my material, and I needed to find a head. And I came upon several old Dodge truck fenders with the headlight bezel still intact. And I thought it was just a beautiful set of eyes. And this came together within 1 minute. I just went out walking in my piles of stuff, and I just came across this. And I told myself, wow, I can really make a nice dog head out of that. So the next day, I went to work assembling this, and that Corvette tailpipe that I thought I would use for the nostril that really inspired this whole piece, it just wasn't right. It wasn't the right size. And I looked around through my material and I found an old bike seat. And it had really good shape and it worked well. And pondering that, a seat is where you sit. Usually you put your butt, and dogs are always sniffing and poking around and doing inappropriate things. So I thought that really worked well. So I quite often look at material for shape and size, but when you can look at it for social meaning, then it brings it to another whole level. So I hoisted the head in the air, and I thought I was onto something here. When I started looking for material, I went to my neighbors and I found an engine cover for a van, which are commonly referred to as dog houses. So I thought that was a fitting piece, and I started working on the body and utilizing mostly auto parts, auto-related parts. There's a rich history between dogs and autos. They chase automobiles and ride in them and pee on the tires. And the same thing with trees. I thought it was very fitting for the legs because, dogs, they usually mark their territory. So for me, a sculpture is successful when it seems to have personality or it seems to take on a life. And this sculpture, I took this picture late at night one night, and it actually scared me. It seemed to come alive that night. And the deadline was quickly approaching for the art prize show, and I thought this dog was too menacing. So I needed to do something about it. So the day before I went to Grand Rapids, I wanted to make a bone or a ball or a toy for the thing. And luckily I had thousands of these cans that I had cut up from the school hot lunch program, and I created a ball out of about 250 cans. That's just a hollow ball there, all screwed together. And I thought it tamed the dog down a little bit. And people started coming, and they started relating to the dog, and they came in droves. Lots of school programs. For several days, there were groups and groups of children that came, and people came by the thousands. And they interacted and climbed all over it. The legs were, after several weeks of people touching and climbing, and the legs really got burnished down. And you can tell by the grass how many people came through. They estimate about 250,000 people showed up in Grand Rapids for the art prize competition, and I believe a lot of them came by Rusty the dog. And at least that many pictures were taken also. And luckily for me at that time, there were 1,582 entries, and Rusty was so well received that he ended up placing 5th out of all those entries, which is just absolutely blew my mind, because my whole focus was just to create this dog and be a part of this competition. And I never thought it would have been so well received. So luckily, the people from Baker College saw the dog and liked its personality and offered to give it a home. So the irony to all of this is I grew up down next to Allen Park, and where the big tire is, and this dog is now like right next door to this big tire, which was an icon in my life from a very young age, and now is a part of the area down there. So I guess my message to you is that you should always dream big and go for it, because what do you have to lose, basically? I took the whole summer off last year, and usually I travel around and do art and craft shows, and I took a big chance. I didn't do anything. I did but one show, basically. And I devoted 3 months of my time to building a large dog, and it was very well received. So sometimes it pays. You should go for it. So that's my message. Thank you very much.